Good evening. This is Oman News Live from the news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television. First, the headlines. Financial Affairs and Energy Resources Council discusses the basis and assumptions in the preparations of the State General Budget for the fiscal year 2020. The Asyad Group, in partnership with the private sector, award the project for developing Burj Al Sahwa as an integrated public transport station. An agreement for establishing the waterfront of the Wilaya of Daba is signed. And with a value of more than 17 million Omani Riyals, the tender board awards a number of development projects. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The basis and assumptions in the preparation of the State General Budget for the fiscal year 2020 were reviewed by the Financial Affairs and Energy Resources Council in its fifth meeting this year. Within this framework, the Council discussed estimations of oil production and scenarios of international oil prices, in addition to the initial estimations for general revenues, spending and deficit, besides means of financing and the level of public debt for the coming fiscal year. The meeting also discussed the status of implementing the state's general budget for the current fiscal year and expected results until the end of the year. The Council also reviewed the indications of financial performance for the first 7 months, stressing the importance to continue adjustments on the general spending and enhance non-oil revenues. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Darwish bin Ismail al-Balushi, Minister responsible for Financial Affairs, Chairman of the Financial Affairs Energy Resources Council. A global logistic group, Asyad, floated a tender for developing Burj Al Sahwa as an integrated public transport station in an area of 42,000 square meters with a private sector partnership. The tender items include the construction works, designing, operating and financing the station according to high quality conditions. The station will provide services for public transport lines, operators, taxis, vehicles, renting goods, facilities and designated spaces for e-tickets. It is expected to start the implementation of the projects in the middle of the next year. An agreement for establishing the waterfront of the Wilaya of Daba was signed today in the Governorate of Musandam as one of the most important development projects. The project will positively contribute in activating the tourism and economic movement in the Wilaya, in addition to provide a tsunami protection along the Wilaya beach and include sites for productive feminist projects. The project will be implemented with the support of private sector at an estimated cost of about 5,000 Omani Riyals. The tender board assigned a number of projects and additional works as a completion for the development projects in a number of fields with a value of more than 17 million Omani Riyals. The project, which was awarded by the board, are supplying of laboratory materials for the Ministry of Health in 2020, provide English language teachers for colleges of applied sciences and educational college in Rustak for the Ministry of Higher Education, project of repairing damages resulted from Mekuno cyclone 2018 for the roads of Ful, Al-Maghsil, Rasyut, Raqqa, Tawi Atir, Ashir and Jabal Samhan in the Governorate of the Far for the Ministry of Transport and Telecommunications. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Dr. Rashid bin As-Safi Al-Huraybi, Chairman of the Tender Board. Embodied in partnership between the government and the private sector, the Minister of Health signed an agreement for establishing Themrate hospitals with the Petroleum Development Oman PDO. The signing also included financing 4 more projects in the fields of health, agriculture and infrastructure in the Governorate of the Far and Ad-Dakhiliya. The signing ceremony included graduation of a number of disabled people who were under a training program by PDO for 4 months. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman Television, and yet to come in our news bulletin, the 4th round of the annual Digital Arts Exhibition is opened in the Omani Society for Fine Arts. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Air Vice Marshal Matar bin Ali Al Ubaidani, commander of Royal Air Force of Oman, RAFO, got acquainted with the activities of the Joint Air Exercises Magic Carpet, which was held in the Wilayah of Thamrid. The exercise is implemented by the Royal Air Force of Oman with the participation of the British Royal Air Force and with the support of the Royal Navy of Oman Sultan Special Forces and the U.S. Air Force. The commander of the Royal Air Force of Oman during his visit to Thamrid Air Base was briefed on the exercises, which comes within the annual training plans of the RAFO. The exercise aims to ensure the efficiency and readiness of the RAFO affiliates. Follow-up committees of the implementing conventions of the elimination of all forms of discriminations against women, CEDAW, discussed the report of harmful practices and the regulation of the child law. During its meeting, the committee also reviewed the first National Voluntary Report of Sustainable Development Goals 2030. The meeting was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Kalbani, Minister of Social Development. In order to review joint activities in the monitoring field at the GCC countries, the activities of the 20th meeting of Undersecretaries of the Monitoring and Accountability Apparatus in GCC countries started in Muscat. The meeting discussed the need to prepare a public framework in order to implement seminars and conferences and put up criteria to implement workshops and programs to introduce joint work decisions. The meeting highlighted the results of the fourth competitions of Gulf Cooperation Council for Research and studies in the field of monitoring and accountability. The Minister of Interior announced that the registrations in the electoral records for the Shura Council elections for the 9th will be closed tomorrow, Thursday. The ministry called on the citizens who have not yet been registered should activate the registration process through the election website or at the office of the walis in order to facilitate them to cast their votes and bring along the valid identity card supported by the PKIE certification system. In order to enhance mutual cooperation in the media field between the Sultanate and China, the Omani Chinese Press Forum was opened today in Beijing. The three-day forum, which is organized by the Omani Journalist Association, is held in cooperation with the Omani Embassy in China. It is expected to attract 40 Omani media and a number of Omani and Chinese economists and academics. The event includes seminars on relations between the two countries, visits to Chinese media institutions and several professional associations, as well as meetings with the Chinese officials. The forum will also present a photo exhibition comprising 150 pictures revealing the beauty of Oman and a symposium on bilateral ties. The works of skills development of Assistants Directors General and their equivalents started today with the training program. The program, which is implemented by the Competencies Development Institute at the Diwan of Royal Court, aims at developing executive leadership for the new economy based on knowledge and artificial intelligence to get acquainted with the updates in this field and having discussions with international experts on this type of economy, as well as involving officials from the Diwan of the Royal Court in the development process. A number of studies at the Competencies Development Institutes were taken into consideration in designing the program, as well as hiring international experts and defining the most prominent competencies necessary for the executive leadership in the Diwan of Royal Court in various administrative positions to deal with the new economy demands. The fourth round of the annual Digital Arts Exhibition was opened in the Omani Society for Fine Arts affiliated to Sultan Qaboos Higher Center for Culture and Sciences at the Diwan of the Royal Court. The exhibition is in line with the global arts movements in various fields such as still and motion pictures. A wide number of members of the community visited the exhibitions to get acquainted to the works of more than 50 artists. The works displayed in the exhibition included photography, sculpture, various ceramic shapes, and a combination of other artistic works. The participants through this exhibition aimed to convey their messages by using the arts, as a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Financial Affairs and Energy Resources Council discusses the basis and assumptions in the preparation of the State General Budget for the fiscal year 2020. The Asyad Group, in partnership with the private sector, awarded the projects for developing Burj Al Sahwa as an integrated public transport station. And an agreement for establishing the waterfront of the Wilaya of Daba is signed. Finally, with the value of more than 17 billion Omani Riyals, the tender board awards a number of development projects. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television. From the entire news team and myself, it's good night.